Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I review books and bookish things. I upload on Thursdays and alternating Tuesdays. And today, as this goes up, as the day this goes live, not the day that I'm filming this, is my birthday. So I thought we would review a book on writing. So today's pick is Stephen King's On Writing. It's a memoir of the craft. And let's get into it. Okay, so this book came out in 2000. It has a 4.33 on Goodreads. I give it a solid 4 stars, which, frankly, for me, for a Stephen King book is a little low. It's part writing and style manual, part memoir. This book was written shortly after his near-fatal car accident in 1999. It details how writing shaped and saved his life. If you don't know that story, he was... I believe he was walking and he was hit by a car and very nearly died up in Maine. It's equal parts informative and enchanting and inspiring. The writing advice, though it might be obvious to some people, I think serves as a great reminder to writers, because we know this. We know all of the advice in the book we already know. We, in our brain we know it, but it's maybe not engraved on our hearts yet as we're reading the book. So, and one of his rules is if you want to be a writer, if you want to be an author, you have to write a lot. You also have to read a lot. He recommends, instead of listening to music on the radio, listen to an audiobook. Audiobooks 100% count. Audiobooks 100% count towards your reading goals, towards reading and taking in books, and it's a better use of your time to read more, because the more you read, the more universes you explore, the more syntax styles and all of these, the business of writing, you learn more. Read fiction, read nonfiction, whatever interests you, whatever you want to write about. Read inside and outside of your genre. That's important, to read outside of your genre, but especially to read inside of your genre. And see what other authors, what other creatives are doing with the space. He also says the best stories are about people. And that... people like people. People are interested by people. The best stories are often character-driven. I'm reviewing Lord of the Rings. I had Fellowship come out yesterday. On, I believe it's Tuesday, I'll have Two Towers, my review of Two Towers coming out on Tuesday. And those books are great, and they've stood the test of time because they're about, not necessarily humans, but they're about people. They're about beings that you can relate to, that you can transfer the neutral mask, that you can project yourself onto. Utterly fantastic and amazing in the storytelling because of the characters, not in spite of them. And that's something amazing. He also says to avoid passive tense, and that's something I used to struggle with. I've gotten a lot better at. But I used to say, so-and-so had done this. Had blah blah blah, had. It's not even creative passive voice, it's all lazy passive voice. I've gotten much better at it, but passive voice is still something I struggle with, but it's good to have the reminder. My favorite, the road to hell is paved with adverbs, that instead of, your adverbs are words that describe verbs. So typically your ly words, quickly, emotionally, these sorts of things. Instead of saying, Xander said this sadly, say maybe Xander's voice choked up in he felt a lump in his throat that he had a hard time getting the words around. Isn't, this is just an example I'm coming up with off the top of my head, but isn't that better storytelling than saying, oh, he said this sadly, she ran quickly? Shadowfax show us the meaning of haste rather than Shadowfax, run quickly. Like, which is better, right? And then if you can do it for joy, you can do it forever, which is something that Stephen King learns over the course of the book, that he not learns over the course of the book, but learns over the course of his life, that he rekindles his joy for writing. And it talks a little bit about the Bachman books, and how when he wrote the Bachman books, he was in a dark place, and he's like, well, do people like my books because they like my books, or do they like my books because they like me, or because I've told them they should like that self-doubt. And he let self-doubt rob his joy, and he did what he needed to get his joy back, which is amazing. But I would say one of my takeaways is don't let anyone steal your joy of writing, steal your joy of the craft. If read a lot, write a lot is a great commandment, and I assure you that it is, how much writing constitutes a lot? And he says that varies, of course, from writer to writer. One of my favorite stories on the subject, probably more myth than truth, lies in James Joyce. According to a study, a friend came to visit him, found the great man sprawled across his writing desk in a posture of utter despair. Essentially, James Joyce had a terrible day. And how many words did you write today? 7. 7,000? 700? 7. That's not a lot, but that's as much as, according to the story, because it's probably a myth. It's probably a made-up anecdote. But according to that, that's all he could muster, and it varies from day to day, it varies from writer to writer, and some days 7 is all you can do. And it's... At the time he wrote this, I think he said he was going for 2,000 words a day, which has long been my goal for when I set writing goals, is to get about 2,000 a day. NaNoWriMo, which is the 50,000 words over the course of November, comes out to 1667 a day. I usually try to round that up to 2,000, because if I hit 2,000 a day, if I have a day where I write, 7, I'm ahead from yesterday, so I'm not as behind today. And it's easier to catch up when you're ahead than to catch up when you're way behind, as I was forced to deal with this year. So, on writing, I think if you want to be a writer and you're not sure how to go about writing, if you're not sure, not so much the business of writing, but the actual crafting of stories, the actual craft of writing, the art of writing, this is a good book to read. And it's one of my favorite authors. It's one of the most successful authors of the modern world. And yeah. Have you read On Writing? Have you read any other books by Stephen King? This is a nonfiction, obviously. I think he's got another called Dance Macabre, and I would love to read that one. It's on my list. Have you read books on writing? Do you write? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.